The ignorance of the left on price control. We play this clip from the great Thomas Sowell, I believe is one of our greatest treasures, one of our greatest, the world's greatest thinkers and philosophers and economists. I mean, this man does it all. I love Thomas Sowell. I read a bunch of his books. I listened to a bunch of his videos, bunch of his interviews. And this is the older video. This is a flashback when he talked about price control and the left, how they always want price control. I'm very excited to check out this clip. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. Also, check me out on X, where I put my news and thoughts throughout the day there as well. All right, so let's talk about this news. But before I get to this clip, though, just know that, what was it, last Friday, not Friday before last, I think, about a little over a week ago, Kamala Harris came out with her economic plan to fix the economy that she destroyed by controlling the so-called price gouging, which is already illegal. I talked about this before. Price gouging is already illegal. That's not what this is about. This is literally about controlling prices. This is communism. This is government controlling the free market, which is a terrible idea. And Thomas Sowell is going to speak to that. So let's talk about this. Let's play this clip here. Here we go.
Some years ago, when I taught at Brandeis, I traveled from California to Massachusetts and discovered that my auto insurance rates had doubled. And since Los Angeles is not a small village or something, you wonder, why does that happen? Now, at about the same time, many other people were upset because Massachusetts had the highest auto insurance premiums in the country. The political answer was not to say, why are these premiums so high? What fact are they conveying? But it was...
Hold on, let me stop 1 second here. They never ask why. Why are the prices so high? What's causing this? Is it something we're doing? Is it something to do with policy? Is it something to do with regulation? Is there what are the variables that are causing prices to go up? They're saying no, it's automatically price gouging going on. We need to go in and control these prices. Of course, Kamala Harris will never say no. It's our policy that created this inflation. Our spending created this inflation. Let's get the spending under control. No, it's not that.
Was to control the premiums. In fact, they launched an investigation of the insurance industry, the net result of which was they discovered that insurance companies were losing money in Massachusetts, charging the highest auto insurance premiums in the country. Now, anyone who's ever seen Massachusetts drivers will know that there's no mystery as to why those premiums are so high. Right. The only place where you can regularly see drivers changing lanes in the tunnel during the rush hour is in the Callahan Tunnel in Boston. When I taught at Brandeis, I can recall driving to work on the right-hand side of the street and being surprised to see a tractor-trailer pass me on the right on the shoulder of the road. The only place where I've seen emergency vehicles with their sirens on, having to jam on the brakes because someone did a left turn in front of them, is in Massachusetts. But of course, people didn't want to hear what the prices were telling them, and so the answer was to control the prices themselves.
Of course.
There have been many other areas in which there have been price controls. They have a standard, really stereotypical pattern. One is that you reduce the supply of whatever is being controlled. Not surprising, since people do less when they're paid less. The other is that you reduce the quality of what's being controlled, because higher quality is costlier than lower quality. And when you force the prices down, people then reduce the quality of what they're producing.
That's...
One of the classic examples is housing. Wherever rent control has been put in, there is a shortage of apartments. In many places, there's a provision in the law that says this is only a temporary measure until the housing shortage is over. And sometimes they define that in terms of some percentage of vacancy and so on. And what they don't understand is that as long as that law is on the books, there will always be a shortage, and there will never be a time to take the law off the books. In Paris, they put a law like this on the books as an emergency measure during World War I. It was still in force when World War II broke out. In Sweden, they put one in the early days of World War II. Decades later, it was still there. Finally, for some reason, it occurred to someone to take off the price controls. Instantly, there was a housing surplus. The housing projects put up by the Swedish government suddenly began to have high vacancy rates, and in fact had to be bailed.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought as soon as they released those price controls that that it would fix everything? Who would have thought that?
Out because they couldn't fill them. I thought about rent control a few years ago when I visited West Berlin. It was still a difference in those days. And I could see this marvelous new modern city. And I came back and visited some of my relatives in the Bronx. And as I drove into the Bronx and I saw all these hulks of abandoned and boarded up buildings, I thought, suppose someone from Mars had come down here and you said to him, which of these two cities was bombed during World War II? He would pick the Bronx.
Right.
Because Berlin had recovered from the bombing, but the Bronx had not recovered from rent control.
Another Democrat hellhole back then.
The very notion of making things affordable misses the key point of a market economy. An economy exists to make trade-offs, and a market economy makes the terms of those trade-offs plain with price tags representing the relative costs of producing different things. To have politicians arbitrarily change the price tags so that prices no longer represent the real costs is to defeat the whole purpose. Reality doesn't change when the government changes price tags. Price control hides costs rather than reducing them. Hidden costs continue to take.
And I made that statement. I made that statement before as well. It hides costs. It doesn't change the cost of it. Somewhere something is going to happen. You're going to lose the You're going to either end up losing the abundance of that product. You're going to lose the quality of that product. Something is going to lose somewhere.
Take their toll, and it is often a higher toll than when these costs are freely transmitted through the marketplace. Less supply, poorer quality, and longer waits have been the consequence of price controls for all sorts of goods and services in all sorts of societies and for thousands of years of human history. Whether in France during the 1790s, the Soviet Union after the Bolshevik Revolution, or in newly independent African nations during the past generation, governments have imposed artificially low prices on food. In each case, this led to artificially low supplies of food and artificially high levels of hunger. Why?
And not to mention the black market. A lot of the stuff ends up on the black market. Again, quality goes down.
Why do we go through this whole rigmarole of passing around dollar bills and writing each other checks, except to force everyone to economize on the country's inherently limited resources? What about basic necessities? Shouldn't they be a right? The idea certainly sounds nice, but the very fact that we can seriously entertain such a notion as if we were God on the first day of creation, instead of mortals constrained by the universe we find in place, shows the utter unreality of failing to understand that we can only make choices among alternatives actually available. For society as a whole, nothing comes as a right to which we are entitled. Even bare subsistence has to be produced, and produced at a cost of heavy toil for much of human history. The only way anyone can have a right to something that has to be produced is to force someone else to produce it for him. The more things are provided as rights, the less the recipients have to work, and the more others have to carry their load. That does not mean more goods are available than under ordinary market production, but less. For the government to make some things more affordable is to make other things less affordable, and to destroy people's freedom to make their own trade-offs as they see fit in the light of economic realities rather than political visions. Trade-offs remain inescapable, whether they are made through a market or through politics. The difference is that price tags present all the trade-offs simultaneously, while political affordability policies arbitrarily fix on whatever is hot at the moment. That is why cities have been financing all kinds of boondoggles for years, while their bridges rusted and their roadways crumbled.
Mm-hmm.
Price fluctuations convey knowledge of changing trade-offs among changing options, as people weigh costs and benefits differently over time, with changes in tastes or technology. The totality of knowledge conveyed by the innumerable prices and their widely varying rates of change vastly exceeds what any individual can know or needs to know for his own purposes. How accurately these prices convey knowledge depends on how freely they fluctuate. The use of force to limit those fluctuations, or to change the relationship of one price to another, means that knowledge is distorted to represent not the terms of cooperation possible between A and B, but the force exerted by C. Looked at another way, the array of options people are willing to offer each other are reduced when force is applied to limit the level or the fluctuation of prices, and the array can shrink all the way to the vanishing point when the price is specified by a third party, if his specification does not happen to coincide with trade-offs mutually acceptable to entities contemplating transactions. Price fixing as a process cannot be defined by its hoped-for results. The set of options simultaneously acceptable to A and B is almost inevitably greater than the set of options simultaneously acceptable to A, B, and C, where C is the third-party observer with force, typically the government. The form in which force is applied to constrain price communication varies widely, including 1. Establishing an upper limit beyond which force will be applied, fines, jail, confiscation, etc., to anyone charging and or paying such prices. 2. Establishing a lower limit. 3. Indirectly raising some prices by taxing particular items more so than others, and indirectly lowering some prices by subsidizing the product with assets forcibly transferred from the taxpayers, rather than having the product paid for only by assets voluntarily transferred by consumers of that product. The use of force is emphasized here not simply because of the incidental unpleasantness of force, but because the essential communication of knowledge is distorted when what can be communicated is circumscribed.
All right. Shout out, Dr. Thomas Sowell. Again, wonderful, wonderful mind. I would advise y'all to follow him online. Again, he's a national treasure. One thing y'all can pull from this is when it comes to government price control, there's going to be a trade-off. You're going to end up losing somewhere. Either it's not going to be enough for everyone, the quality is going to go down, it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be a trade-off somewhere. So but y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.